Hello, I'm Executive Chef Joseph Schutza. Welcome to our kitchen. Today I'd like to show you a pretty cool method of doing stuffed chicken breast. So stick around and let me show you how I do it. Here we have our chicken breast. The industry term for these particular pieces is called airline chicken. Airline chicken breasts have the skin still attached and also have the first joint of the wing attached to it. These, if you remember, off of my chicken stock demonstration, were broken down from the wok. So the first thing I like to do is flip it over and remove the tenderloin. That's the long piece coming right down the back side of the breast. And I will cut that into a couple little cubes. These tenderloins are going to be used to make our chicken mousse or mushroom mousse to stuff the breast. So these are already pretty well cleaned up from when I broke it down previously. So now this is an option, this step here. What I like to do is French the bone. Just makes it a little nicer looking. Take your blade and knife and pinch the skin and fat and take a cut down at the bottom of the bone close to the breast. Make your cut all the way around. Then I like to take the back of the knife, the heel, and start scraping. Now that we have that up there, the end of the bone towards the top there, cut your end off. And there you have it. A French airline chicken breast. Repeat with your remaining pieces. Now that we have our chicken breast cleaned, we have our chicken cut into pieces, we're now going to put it into our food processor. What I like to do is first put in the chicken. Depending on the consistency that you're looking for is what you start with. If you're looking for the mousse to be really smooth, I would recommend starting with the mushrooms and the onions first. Get those minced very fine, like mushroom duxelle. Personally, I prefer to have mine just a little bit chunky. So now that we have that in there, let us pulse this a little bit. Next thing I will add is the mushrooms, garlic, and caramelized onions. I then add, depending on the consistency, mine seems a little bit thick. I have one egg yolk here. I'm sorry, egg white. I'm gonna add about half of it and then check again my consistency. Scrape my sides a little bit. This is fine. Okay. Now, one last item. I have about a half a cup of torn sorrel. Add a little color to it. You could add anything you want with your mousses. Could add goat cheese, sun-dried tomatoes, pine nuts, anything. And that is your mousse. Now that our mousse has been completed, we moved it to the cooler for a little bit. Now what I like to do is move on to searing and seasoning the chicken. So right now I'm just gonna season it with some salt. Add a little oil in the pan. Searing it skin side down, laying it away from you, as not to splash. We're gonna sear this until we get a nice golden brown color on the skin side. So now after a few minutes, let's check our chicken. Looking nice. A few more seconds there. Let's go ahead and flip it over. Now we want to sear the bottom side for about 3 minutes. And then we're going to remove it from this. Now the chicken has been seared. Our next step is to cut the pocket and stuff the mousse. Now the reason that I sear it before putting the mousse in is because the breast is still pretty flat and it got a nice even sear across the entire surface of the top and bottom of the breast. If I were to fill the mousse in here, it makes it more of a cylinder and makes it rounded edges. So it's only gonna sear this center part, and then I would have to stand there and babysit it and roll it back and forth, or do it with an exuberant amount of oil. When we cut our pocket, we insert through the thick side on the bone side, thick end of there. And as we come into the breast like this, we literally just saw a nice little pocket in between there. Pull a knife out, and then that's it for the pocket, like so. And that's that. Next step will be to fill our piping bag with the mousse. I recommend folding it over a little cuff so your hand can go under. It helps stabilize it. Drop the mousse in. Cut the end. Squeeze it down. Twist your end so you're able to force it through the hole. Open it up like so. And there's your mousse. And you can see the difference how it rolled up on you. Now I take it back to the pan and it's ready for the oven. 350 degrees for about 15 to 17 minutes. Well, our chicken has now been removed from the oven. It was cooked to internal temperature roughly 160 degrees. The carryover cooking would have brought it past the 165 mark. I allow it to rest for about 7 minutes. So now we're ready for the slicing. I like to slice mine beginning at the end where the bone is, and then coming in on a bias using a serrated knife. And then cut into a nice few pieces. Cutting it on the bias allows you to lay it out on the plate a lot nicer in a fanned out motion like so. But if you look through the pieces, how we have our stuffing got through into all of our pieces. So this is the reason I prefer to cut this pocket. As I demonstrated earlier how easy it is, but it's not the only way. You could have butterflied the chicken, pounded it out, and rolled it like a roulade. We could actually have piped the mousse between the skin and the meat, but then you just have to roast it from there. But I like how this looks, you know. Just it's completely full, and again, how we were able to get all the way to the end and not bust through the chicken breast. If you break through the chicken breast, not to worry about it. You just have to be careful that when you're piping the mousse in, you just don't shoot it out the backside and you lose all the good product. And speaking of the good product, earlier in the video I mentioned about having some leftover mousse. So we wondered how to utilize it. Having some fresh zucchini from the garden, we decided to do a stuffed zucchini with a little homemade marinara. That's a shaved goat's cheddar cheese on top, and just some fresh rosemary from the garden as well. Great way to utilize things, and the mousse. So, well, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it, And feel free to leave some comments, questions, and recipe will follow. Yo,